All right, everybody. So our next stop here is we're pretty soon going to start looking at the development section. But what we want to do before that is we want to make sure that we can really confirm that we're super secure in what we should expect and what the structure is of the exposition section. So we're going to take a look at another Mozart sonata. We're going to look at Sonata in A minor. It looks like this. This is the piece that we're looking at here. It's got a really, really nice main theme. Right? So I got a lot of energy there. But before we dive into it, what I really want us to get a feel for, like I said, is that we know already what the structure of this piece is going to be. We know how a sonata exposition is going to unfold. And so what I want to do is just sort of set an expectation up. Make sure that we can sort of not predict exactly, but safely state how this should unfold. So let's look really quickly at what the model should be of an exposition section. All right, so let's take a peek at what we should get. And what we're looking at here is sort of a model of an exposition section for a piece in A minor, which we are looking at a piece in A minor. So let's sort of talk about how this should unfold. So we're in A minor. You can see what I've got here. The top two staves are sort of the surface level. You can see here I've got some chords written out inside of keys. The treble clef is kind of mostly dedicated to thinking about themes and motives and things like that. And then this third stave here at the bottom describes the overall tonal scheme of this section, so how the keys relate to one another. So if we're in A minor, we know that by the end of the exposition section, we will have gone into a secondary key, and since this is a minor key sonata, we know that we're going to go into the key of 3. We know we're going to go into C major in this point. So on the bottom, on my sort of scheme here, I'm showing that we start in A minor, that we're doing some things in A minor, and then at a certain point, we start moving towards 3, and then our sort of last section here, our ska area, is in C minor, is in 3. But we want to get a little deeper than that. So thinking about what we should be listening for, what we should be looking for in the music, when we're in the main theme area here, we know that we want to be listening for the basic idea. You sometimes also hear me use the term main theme melody to describe this. This is sort of to distinguish it between main theme section, right, or the main theme sub area, or the main theme function, the structural thing called the main theme. So I'll sometimes call it the main theme melody, but another term that's very common is the basic idea, the musical idea that's at the heart of this piece. And that's an important thing to look at. That's the thing that you would hum, probably. The thing that you hear that you're going to leave humming is the basic idea, or like I said, I sometimes call it the main theme melody. So we want to be paying attention to that in the main theme area, but we also know that we should be listening for a cadence. And even something like this, mapping out what bass notes should we expect based on which type of cadence we might have. So if we're in A minor, we know that the main theme will end with a cadence in the home key. And so that means it's either going to be a half cadence on E or an authentic cadence from E to A, right? That would be an authentic cadence. And that's what's going to clarify where the ending of our main theme is, a cadence in the home key, right? So that's what to expect for the main theme. For the transition, there's a little bit more going on. We know that from a tonal perspective, this is where that sort of motion from the home minor key to the relative major is going to happen. So motion from 1 to 3. So at some point in the transition, we're going to get into C major here. So that's something to watch out for. Another thing that we've seen pretty consistently, or at least that we should be getting an idea that we should be on the lookout for, is that at the beginning of the transition, it's very common for the composer to call back to the main theme a little bit, to repeat some of that basic idea at the beginning of the transition. Not to fool us necessarily, but to make sure we have a strong connection with that basic idea, with that main motive of the piece. So we always want to be on the lookout. So just because we hear the main theme melody again, just because we hear the basic idea again, that doesn't mean we're still in the main theme area, because as our model is showing us here, the thing that ends the main theme area is a cadence in the home key, right? Cadences really clarify the structure. So in the transition, we might hear the main theme melody. We might not, but it's worth pointing out that if we do, and if we do, there's a good likelihood that it would still be in the home key, because we've just cadenced in the home key. And we don't necessarily know in the transition where the modulation to the relative major, to C major in this case, is going to be. And we know the transition section is over once we've modulated and have a cadence in the secondary key, once we have a cadence in the relative major. So we know that we're on the lookout for a half cadence on G or an authentic cadence from G to C as our ending of the transition section. So those are the tonal and harmonic elements that we need to be on the lookout for in the main theme and the transition of any sonata in A minor. That's why it's really important to think about this, because we are looking at specific pieces, but since they're specific pieces that follow a format, they follow the form of sonata form, and so we know that these are things that we should be on the lookout for. So it helps to give some specificity as you're listening and looking at these pieces. Then we get into the secondary key area, and here things get a little bit more murky. We know that it's very common for us to have three ska sections, three secondary key areas, 1, 2, 3. We also know that tonally, we're going to be in C major for this whole thing. We're going to be in the secondary key for this whole time. So our question then becomes, if we don't have a different key to separate it, like we did between main theme and the end of the transition, if we don't have a tonal change, we have to ask, how are these different ska sections, 1, 2, 3, how are they separated, right? And remember, it doesn't have to be 3. 2 is also fairly common. 1 and more than 3 would be very uncommon. So how are the ska sections that we have separated? And there's really two main ways that we could be thinking about. The first, and perhaps the most straightforward, would be through cadences that end these ideas, right? So again, we're in C major. We could either have a little cadence, a little half cadence on G, or a little authentic cadence from G to C to end a ska section. Or we could have different themes, like clearly different thematic material that distinguishes these ska sections one from the next. And that would be something else that could, stand in here to help us see the difference. And these could either be completely new melodic ideas, or they could be sort of recycled melodic material that's related back to perhaps the main theme, the basic idea from the main theme. Could be some material we heard in the transition, anything like that. There's a lot of possibilities. But it's important to be thinking about what could the composer do to showcase these different ska sections. A lot of the time, you're going to have some combination of both of these things. It won't be exclusively based on a cadence or exclusively based on different themes. It could be, certainly. But you want to have those two concepts as the backbone and the foundation in how you analyze these things. So hopefully, this way of mapping out what we expect, the model of an exposition section in an A minor sonata, hopefully that gives you something to aim for as we analyze this actual Mozart piece. This is a good practice before you head into an analysis of always just making sure you know exactly what to expect, you know what's going to come up, so that when you're looking at these really specific and complicated ideas, you have a map of how they fit into a more broad and more formulaic foundation. So We're going to dig into this Mozart in the next video, but that was a nice way to just get yourself contextualized in how should it work, bringing the specifics of this piece into the general form of an A minor sonata exposition.